2 enemy missiles and 18 Russian drones hit their targets last night. Strikes were recorded at 19 locations. This is according to the latest reports from the Air Force of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. In total, the Russians launched 124 aerial targets at Ukraine. The missiles were of the Kh-56 and 569 types, while the drones were Gerbera and Thomas, as well as parody decoys. The air attack was repelled by aviation, anti-aircraft missile troops, electronic warfare, and drone units, as well as mobile fire groups of the Ukrainian Defense Forces. In the morning, Russian terrorists dropped 7 guided aerial bombs on Sumy. It is already known that at least 3 people have been killed and 7 wounded. Gas stations were also attacked by drones. The minibus driver was taken away by ambulance. And another 7 people were injured by strikes from multiple launch rocket systems using cluster munitions. Private houses were damaged. There may still be unexploded shells on the streets, so residents are being asked not to approach suspicious objects. The area is still being inspected. Another 6 civilians have been hospitalized in the region. Odessa is being terrorized by war criminals using guided air-launched missiles from occupied Crimea. This morning, they killed 3 people and wounded 3 more. Residential buildings were damaged. Emergency services are working at the scene. In the village of Maxiimivka in the Kharkiv region, a drone struck a bus stop. The injured woman was handed over to the medics. Cab bombs and drones were flying toward Izium. 5 people were injured, including a representative of the state emergency service who had arrived to provide assistance. 2 more people needed to be hospitalized in Derhachi. In Tavriisk, Zaporizke region, an FPV drone struck a car and killed a woman. Her husband was wounded. A truck driver injured in the regional center was also taken to the hospital. In total, the enemy carried out more than 1,000 strikes across the region. A resident of Novoheorhiivka in Donetsk region did not survive the enemy shelling. 2 of his neighbors were wounded. There were also 2 injured in Kramatorsk and 3 in Maliivka. In Sichneve region, the Russians killed 1 person and wounded another. A man in Ozryani became a victim of a Garin drone. In the Koryukov community, an 18-year-old boy was hospitalized after an FPV drone strike. His condition is extremely serious, and the drone terror in Kherson does not stop. In the morning, the Russians attacked the city center. A civilian was wounded. Another man was injured in the Korabelny district. At night, rescuers extinguished a large fire at the warehouses under the threat of repeated strikes. The naval battle has moved to the Black Sea. This is how the commander of the Unmanned Systems Forces, Robert Brovdi, known as Madyar, described the operation to destroy Russia's oil fleet. According to him, just last night, Madyar's birds struck 20 enemy vessels in the Black Sea, specifically 17 oil tankers, 2 gas carriers, and 1 tugboat. And over the past few weeks, fighters from the Unmanned Systems Forces have damaged or destroyed 116 vessels of Russia's shadow fleet in the Sea of Azov. These operations are causing an even greater fuel shortage in Russia, forcing Russians to get used to living in medieval conditions. Today, we celebrate Ukrainian Statehood Day. We also honor Prince Volodymyr, the baptizer of Rus Ukraine, on July 15th. In 988, he chose Orthodoxy, and at that time, it was not just a choice of faith. More than 1,000 years ago, the foundations of Ukrainian state traditions, culture, and diplomatic ties were laid. For centuries, Ukrainians have defended their identity and fought for freedom to preserve their statehood. Figures from many eras have stood for Ukraine's independence. Now, all Ukrainians are making new history, powerfully resisting the Russian enemy. Ukraine has become a symbol and example of resilience for the whole world, and this very recognition affirms our statehood. And on Statehood Day, the President of the European Commission arrived in Kyiv. Ursula von der Leyen herself announced this on the social network X. She noted that this is already her 11th visit to the Ukrainian capital since the start of the full-scale invasion. In Kyiv, she plans to announce new initiatives for integrating the defense industries of Ukraine and the EU in order to ensure the ability to produce weapons more and faster, as well as to discuss Ukraine's accession to the European Union and preparations for the upcoming winter. In addition to the President of the European Commission, other European leaders have also arrived in Kyiv. The President of Moldova, Maia Sandu, the President of Romania, Nika Sordan, the President of Serbia, Alexander Vučić, and the Prime Minister of Croatia, Andrej Plenković. The Ukrainian defense forces have pushed back the enemy near the settlements of Maliivka, Sichneve, Novoheorhiivka, and Zaporizke. This was reported by analysts from the DeepState portal. These villages are located at the junction of the Zaporizhia, Dnipropetrovsk, and Donetsk regions. In temporarily occupied Pokrovsk, defense forces fighters are conducting strike and search operations against the enemy. However, as observers note, our command no longer demands that the fighters hold the outskirts of Pokrovsk at any cost, just for the illusion of maintaining positions. Overall, over the past day, along the entire front line of the Russian-Ukrainian war, there were 253 battles, according to calculations by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. The highest number of assault actions was recorded specifically in the Pokrovsk direction, where our defenders stopped 40 attacks. The Senate was urged to vote on Lindsey Graham's bill as soon as possible. It was introduced by a bipartisan group. This refers to a bill on significantly strengthening anti-Russian sanctions, which was promoted by Republican Lindsey Graham. If passed, the bill would impose sanctions against the Russian leadership and significant tariffs on the largest buyers of Russian oil. However, they have been somewhat softened, according to Reuters. The bill eases the initial proposals for punitive tariffs on countries importing Russian energy resources. Whereas previously the tariffs were supposed to be 500%, the updated version proposes a maximum of 100% and only for the top 5 importers. The text was finalized shortly before Lindsey Graham met with Volodymyr Zelensky in Kyiv last week. It is known that about 30 senators have publicly declared their readiness to support the bill, which could be approved before Congress's August recess. At a joint press conference, the senators stated that the bill has already been agreed upon with the White House. It has broad bipartisan support and does not require revision. The document was worked on for almost 2 years, and it contains complex technical sanction mechanisms, so reopening it for new amendments is not advisable. President Trump would also like to add new amendments to it regarding Iran and Hezbollah. For 7 hours straight, the U.S. attacked Iranian military targets, striking dozens of Iranian missiles, drones, PMS assets, and coastal defense systems near the Strait of Hormuz and in coastal areas of the Islamic Republic. This was reported by the United States Central Command. Fighter jets, drones, and naval vessels of the armed forces were used in the attack. The command notes that after the attack, Iran's ability to threaten commercial shipping in the Strait of Hormuz and civilian crews has been further reduced. By the way, the strikes took place against the backdrop of the U.S. forces reinstating a naval blockade of Iran. At the same time, Tehran launched new strikes on American facilities in countries across the region, including Kuwait. According to Iran, the targets included American facilities in Jordan and Bahrain. U.S. President Donald Trump once again threatened to bomb Iran's civilian infrastructure, such as power plants and bridges, if Tehran does not agree to negotiations. The naval blockade of Iran's seaports in the Strait of Hormuz has also been reinstated.